This is looking to the east at Temple Palilay. There's a working pagoda here. We have the beautiful trees. The dirt entranceway. Good morning, dog. We have the lion, one remaining. We have the 7-headed nagas. The bodies of the balustrade along this entranceway to the temple. Further along here, we have a modern statue of Buddha. Very much still in use today. And we'll pass these pedestals. Well, once there were statues of warriors. And here you can see the eastern Gopura, and just behind it, the central tower of the Temple of Palilay. Large entrance doorway, very wide. The religious carvings above the doorways. And the mossy green of the wet season just beginning to take over. Up through the steps and through the eastern Gopura of the Temple of Palilay. No covered walkways in this one. But some scaffolding here to support this doorway. Some very narrow steps. Bit tricky for me to navigate. We'll pan around. There's the rubble from the wall. Some beautiful trees in the jungle. This is looking back through the Gopura. You can see the elephants in the carvings up here. Some more rubble, partly reformed, where the conservation specialists have put the pieces back together. Well-worn carvings here, people and horses. And then here you can see the central tower of the Temple of Palilay. So the Temple of Palilay, this is the eastern Gopura with the small modern pagoda covering over the statue of Buddha. You can see a lot of rubble here, so there would have been more buildings, possibly a library. And the forest in the background. And here we're standing on the southeast corner of the temple. And there were 3 big trees here that were cut down but have since regrown. It's quite a popular spot to come and have your wedding photos taken. In spite of the do not climb sign, people will stand on those steps and have this as their background in their wedding photos. Again, just panning around, looking outside the temple. See the sandstone blocks of the building, the laterite blocks of the wall. And back to the 3 big trees and the Tower of Palilay. Palilay Temple was built by Jayavarman VII in the late 12th century, and he was a Buddhist king. He was renowned for building the hospitals, the Bayon, Tarpom and Preah. About 50 years later, and several kings later, there was Jayavarman VIII, and he converted the country back to Hinduism. And a lot of the statues in the temples were torn down, some thrown away into the moat. But Jayavarman VIII ruled for 52 years, a very long time. He had several wars, and the Angkorian kingdom was actually invaded by Kublai Khan in his time, and he settled. He paid money, gold and ivory, and he was allowed to keep his kingdom. So towards the end of his life, he abdicated, and the kingdom was taken over by his son-in-law. Jayavarman VIII did works on Palilay Temple and converted it back to Hinduism. More works have been done outside of the Angkor era in the 13th and 14th century. There are no carvings here that record the history of Palilay, so it's not 100% sure when it was built and when any renovations or extra work was done on it. You can see here the tall tower with the laterite blocks, and inside there some of those blocks have been reused from other temples. So it was built late in the history of Angkor Kingdom. Walking around here, we're back to the East Kapura. And you can see the central tower there of the Temple of Palilay.
Like many temples, Palilay is scattered with lots of rubble, lots of sandstone that's been partly carved, or fully carved, or carved and then smashed. Sometimes they just don't know where it belonged. Sometimes they're able to pick the pieces up and put them back where they belong in a restructured temple. Just to show you a couple of the different carvings, we think this one might be quite modern. And we don't often see fish like this. We've seen some fish around the Bayon, but they look like relatively modern carvings. We come over here and there's an image of someone. First off we thought, wow, there's a turtle. We've seen a few turtles, 3 I think, across various temples, but Kathy seems to think it's probably a lotus flower, and often these characters here will be holding up a lotus flower, a bit like an umbrella. Here's some more. This is the part of a lintel. We often see these around the temples where they're restoring them. They'll have them out in an open area, ready to install above the doors. They've usually got a fairly big story attached to them. Head of a naga. So many of these around. Some very serene looking people in the carvings. And at different times of the year, when you have moss or no moss, they can look quite strikingly different. I think this guy's carrying a weapon of some sort. Just a funny little mushroom. So all of these rocks have got various levels of carving on them. Some you can understand, some you can't. There's another figure sitting there in the peaceful position, in the sampai position, with their hands clasped together. You see these patterns around the sides, edges, corners and bases of the temples. Look at the carving, the fine carving on all of this. Imagine how long it took to carve all of this in the sandstone. and a little bit more. All these blocks here, they've probably been catalogued, so they probably don't know how they fit into the bigger structure of things. Another naga. There are nagas everywhere. And here you can quite clearly see it's a door frame or a window frame with my shadow in the background. Some more fine carving. It kept a lot of people in work. I suppose when they came back from the wars they had to do something with their people, so one of the things was to do a lot of building. So that's just a few of the carvings on the excess blocks of sandstone around the wonderful Palilay Temple. So just a funny little story that happened to us here at Palilay when we visited. One day we parked the motorbike here just like this. Normally when we park the motorbike we lock our helmets together because they have been known to be stolen in the past, and we lock the bike as well. But on this particular day we said let's not lock up our helmets, and we left our combination lock in the basket of the bike. When we got back, the combination lock was gone. We thought, have we got thieves out here? Anyway, we look on the seat of the bike, and on the seat of the bike there were these little footprints, and then on the mirror there were dirty handprints, and it appears some cheeky bloody monkey had come along, took interest in our combination lock and disappeared with it. So somewhere in the scrub around here, probably about 2 minutes after that monkey lost interest in the combination lock, it's been just dropped in the jungle. So remember, you need to lock your things up, not necessarily from theft by tourists or locals, but the monkeys certainly are known for stealing things as well, even down to stealing things like sunglasses off your face. Anyway, that was a cheap learning for us.